Do you like the ability to do double damage at all times? Yeah, so do I. Welcome to my dual wielding builds. And this is only one build of 5. What's one thing that the Paladin, Barbarian, Bard, and Ranger all have in common? They all have subclasses that can do some insane burst as well as sustain damage. In my latest poll on my YouTube page, dual wielding builds is what came first. So we are making a video about dual wielding. I have 5 builds, and one of them even includes the Spore Druid, and they all do some insane sustain and burst damage. I really hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to it. So, like all my other videos, the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be your race choice. And depending on what dual wield build you actually go with in this video, you might want to change your race depending on that. One of my personal favorites is going to be the Zariel Tieflings. They gain additional smites, branding smite, and searing smite just from leveling up. But they also have a fantastic cantrip here that makes you have advantage on intimidation as well as performance checks. And this is actually going to be really handy later on in Act 3 when you get a special weapon that will increase your damage after doing a performance check based on your charisma. Stats here, don't worry about. We will talk about stats when it comes to the build itself. So other than the tieflings that I just mentioned, some other really great races if you want to go for like min-max damage wise, half orc is really great. Savage attacks, getting the extra crit die is really nice. They gain relentless endurance, so it's basically a get out of jail free card. Normally when you would die or be downed, I should say, instead you would be reset to 1 HP, and this is once per long rest. They also have dark vision, which is also pretty handy. Really, any race is going to work with this. I'm a big fan of wood elves, or using the half elves with the wood elves, because they end up getting a couple of just really fantastic things. So if we go with half elf here and go with wood elf half elf, you gain increased movement by 5 feet, which is really nice, on top of everything else you would get from being a human for the most part. So civil militia is really nice. You gain dark vision, and you have Fey ancestry, so you have advantage on saving throws from being charmed, and you can't be put to sleep. Really, really fantastic, and I like having the increased movement speed, so half elves with the wood elves are some of my personal favorites. But really, with these builds, honestly, you can go with any race, and they are all going to work exceptionally well. There's a lot of build diversity in this video, so just pick whatever you want. Those are just some of my personal favorites. When it comes to your background, for my build specifically, because of a weapon you get early in Act 3, I would highly suggest going with Entertainer, because this will give you performance base, which is really, really fantastic. There is a way to get this through feats. However, if you don't want to do that and you just want it straight up right away, I would say be a custom character that can use Entertainer. If you go the Bard path, you don't need this obviously because you will already have performance, but the other classes won't. I did want to showcase the endgame armor and talk about some weapons and whatnot you can use in early of Act 1 and Act 2. So endgame, it's going to revolve around 2 weapons. Crimson Mischief, because this thing is an absolute monster and does additional piercing damage whenever you have advantage. And the Harmonic Dueler. This has a unique weapon attack called Mellow Harmony. You do a performance check. Assuming you succeed, all your melee attacks deal additional damage equal to your charisma modifier. Assuming you use the Birthright hat, which gives you +2 charisma, all your attacks will do +5 additional damage since my charisma is at 20. Technically, you can get this even higher if you go to the Mirror of Loss. The only other pieces of gear that are going to be required for this build will be the Risky Ring. If you do want to use it, will give you advantage on all your attack rolls, meaning you can do on command sneak attack damage with this. The Ballast Armor, if you want maximum damage, this will give you Aura of Murder. All enemies within 7 feet become vulnerable to piercing damage. This is really great because this will affect your allies as well. So if you have an ally that has like maybe dual crossbows, for example, and they're shooting enemies from afar, but they're shooting an enemy you're near, they gain the benefit of that vulnerability. So they'll do double damage too, which is nice. And then the last thing is the Bone Spike gloves. These gloves in combination with the chest piece is what makes the build so bursty. The gloves ignore resistances, meaning all enemies, if you have these gloves and this chest piece, will now be vulnerable to piercing damage, meaning you will do double damage. This is really insane, especially with some of the later builds we talk about, because the way Harmonic Dueler, the way this interacts isn't just weapon attacks. This will interact with Divine Smite and some other things as well. It is really, really fun. Some other pieces of gear I would recommend, however, Boots of Persistence. If Damon is alive in Act 3, he sells these. This gives you freedom of movement and Longstrider, meaning an extra 10 feet of movement, and you can't be affected by difficult terrain, can't be paralyzed or restrained. These are really, really good. Cloak of Protection gives you +1 AC and +1 to your saving throws. I find this to be really good as well because with 8 Intel and 8 Wisdom, you have -1 for your saving throws for that. Well, at least with this cape, it is now neutral, so it's not negative anymore. When it comes to the other rings and things like that, pick whatever you want. It's going to be up to you. I am going to showcase how to get the Bone Spike gloves and the Ballast armor because it is very specific on what you need to do. And if you do this incorrectly, you cannot go back to get these armor pieces. So I will showcase this in the video. Everything else is going to be in a link down below in the description for you to look up on the wiki because it's just too much to add to this video and it would be way too long if I showcased all of that. In order to get the Ballast armor, you do have to follow the quest chain, investigate the murders to the point where you have to save this elephant creature or kill it. You have to be evil for this part. You have to kill it and become the unholy assassin in order to gain access to the vendor to buy this. If not, you cannot get the armor piece. One thing to note about the Bone Spike gloves, they are easily missed. When you are going to Ball Temple, there will be a part where you have 5 turns to kill a certain NPC. During these 5 turns, there will be this character here that I have on screen you have to kill and loot within those 5 turns in order to get the Bone Spike gloves. If you do not, they will disappear and the NPC will run away, so make sure you prioritize killing him to get those gloves. So some weapons that are going to be really useful in Act 1. You can get these weapons pretty early on. The Falar Alav, or Louvre, I have no idea how to say this. This thing is really nice because this is a weapon that is a longsword that is also finesse. So you can use this and actually gain the benefit of sneak attack damage. It also has a unique class ability or weapon ability, Melody, which is really, really great. That way you can do additional damage to the enemies, and this is affected for your allies as well, which is really cool. Another weapon you can get early on is going to be the Sword of Screams. You get this from True Soul Nair. This thing is just really good because it comes with base psychic damage, which is really powerful. You can get that just from killing him or by following the quest chain in the Grimforge. And then, of course, the longsword is found in the Underdark right outside of the Goblin Camp. Assuming you enter the Goblin Camp entrance, you can find it right down there. Keep in mind, every single build showcased in this video will utilize Elixir of Hill Giant Strength. You can farm these super easy in Act 1. Anti-Ethel sells 3 of them per long rest. The dwarf also inside the mushroom colony also has a chance to sell these. Stock up on them early because they make build diversity so much better and they are so useful and you can get so many it's unreal. Okay guys, the first build we are talking about is the Barbarian version. 5 Barbarian, 5 Rogue, 2 Fighter. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. This is my stat spread here. You will get 2 feats. One of those feats will be ability improvement. One of them will also be your dual wielding feat to dual wield heavier weapons. I like starting out as a barbarian for this. However, if you do want to start out as a fighter to get your fighting style right away, you can. Level 2 Barbarian's great. You gain Reckless Attack. You can attack with advantage. This means you can proc your sneak attacks on command once you do multi-class with Rogue. Also, when you attack with advantage, it means you roll 2 dice, and that gives you a higher chance to crit. Level 3, you unlock a subclass. You're going to go Wildheart. Pick whichever one you think is going to be best for you. I go into detail about these in a Wildheart build video, link in the description below. For this build specifically though, I would say Elkheart, Tigerheart, or Bearheart will be the best. Pick whichever one you like. Feat wise, pick whichever one you want first, whether it's ability improvement or your dual wielder feat. I'm going to go ability improvement here. Level 5, you get extra attack, and you also gain fast movement, meaning you can move an additional 10 feet when not wearing heavy armor, which you never will be because you can't rage, and when you rage, you gain 50% reduced damage from all physical attacks, and you do +2 melee damage, which is nice. Okay, so we're going to start multi-classing out of here. If you didn't already take fighter yet, I would put 1 point into fighter to get 2 weapon fighting. That way your offhand attacks will be affected by your actual ability modifier. And again, you are using Elixir of Giant Hill Strength, so your strength will be 21 pretty much at all times, meaning +5 to your attack rolls and damage. You might as well get Action Surge now, or you can start going down Rogue, up to you. Alright, so now we are going to go Rogue. This is great. Make sure you change your abilities when you multi-class with Rogue. You do want to get the expertise in performance in order to benefit the endgame weapon we talked about earlier. Anything else is going to be up to you. Pick whatever else you want. I would say perception is also another really good one to have. Level 2 Rogue, you get bonus actions for your dash, disengage, and hide. Level 3, pick Thief as your subclass. This will give you 2 bonus actions, meaning you can attack twice with your offhand. Level 4 Rogue, you get your second feat, so choose whichever one you did not choose before. Again, you do not have to level up like this. You can level up any way you want. And then at level 5, you gain the ability Uncanny Dodge. This is really fantastic because at level 5, you get your sneak attack damage to be upgraded to 3d6. But with Uncanny Dodge, you can use this as a reflex. So normally when you would be hit by an attack that has an attack roll, you can use this and instead take 50% reduced damage. Alright, now that we have the build all set up, one thing I do want to point out, sometimes the Boots of Persistence and the Ballast Armor will not actually work properly. If you ever have it to where the buff isn't up down at the bottom, just take the piece of armor off and re-equip it, and you can see both of them are on now. I can take the chest piece off, and if that ever glitched, put that back on, and that would be good to go as well. One thing to note as well, you can actually have your sneak attack set as an automatic reaction to where it'll trigger automatically. So whenever you have advantage against a target, you will automatically roll for sneak attack damage as well. I personally like having this on. Every single build that we showcase today will have automatic advantage on the enemies, so it's really nice to have just to get the extra sneak attack damage in per round without forgetting about it. If you would prefer to have this off, you can click it off and manually select the actual ability to do. There is one other thing I did want to mention specifically for the Barbarian version of these builds. The Bone Spike helmet's really nice. Whenever you rage, hostile creatures have to make a wisdom saving throw or take psychic damage, but you also gain menacing attack. Normally, you have to be a battle master to get this. With this helmet, you can use menacing attack once per turn. This will let you do additional damage and have a chance to actually frighten your target, and frightened targets can't move, which is really, really fantastic. So this is a really nice helm to use as well. It just looks like total crap, which is why I don't like using it all that often. So it's going to be up to you whether you want to use it or not. So let's go ahead and make sure I get my potion up, make sure my strength is high, and let's go ahead and pre-buff. So I'm going to use my Melanie right here. Successful. Potion of speed, and let's go ahead and start combat. So we're going to start with this gentleman in front of us. One thing to note, for whatever reason, the aura of murder doesn't always seem to work until after combat starts. It's also because I'm in turn-based mode, so the aura didn't actually affect him yet. But we will go ahead and just use menacing attack on him to start out. And don't let that damage showcase it. That is the damage without the aura actually being on. Alright, my turn. So I'm going to rage. And you can see he saved, so he didn't take damage. But he didn't, so he did take damage. One thing you definitely want to do, you want to attack with reckless attack first, so all your attacks will be with advantage now. So we will do it to this gentleman here first. And you can see I just basically one-shot him. If you take a look at the damage, I did 34 piercing, the 2 necrotic, the 2 acidic, plus my sneak attack damage, which was 34 damage, because the sneak attack damage is also doubled, and the charisma bonus from your offhand weapon right here, the harmonic dueler, affects your sneak attack damage, which is insane. And because of my chest piece are vulnerable, it does it twice. On top of the weapon itself, just doing the additional damage there from your main hand attack, the savagery, yeah, also affected by your charisma modifier. So it's just from that one attack, 34 damage twice plus 22. I mean, that's a lot of damage right there, guys, and that's just from one attack. So I do want to showcase, you can see he is now resistant to piercing damage. Normally these enemies are not. So next we are going over the Gloomstalker version. 5 Gloomstalker, 5 Rogue, 2 Fighter. You are pretty much going to level up the same exact way as you did with Barbarian. The only difference is now you have access to spells and you are a ranger. So when it comes to favorite enemy, natural explorer, and things like that, pick whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Do what you think is going to be best for you. Ability score will be exactly the same. Your skill proficiencies will also be exactly the same. Because we are pretty much leveling up the same exact way, I'm only going to go over the first 5 levels here. You're going to get to level 5 Ranger as soon as possible. Spells that are really useful in my opinion would be your ritual spells. So Long Strider is really good. So is Enhanced Sleep. Even Goodberry is pretty nice to have as well. It's just for free ways to heal. Pick whatever you think is going to be best here. It's going to be up to you. And then, of course, with Ranger, however, you get 2 weapon fighting style at level 2. Subclass is going to be Gloomstalker. This is great because you get your bonus action to hide at level 3. You get Umbral Shroud, which is nice because now you can just make yourself go invisible, which is really, really useful. You gain Dark Vision if you didn't have it before. And you gain Dread Ambusher, so you get +3 to your initiative. You gain an additional 10 feet of movement. And on the first turn of combat, you get to do an additional attack that does additional damage as well, which is really, really useful. Pick whatever spell you didn't pick here as well. It's going to be up to you. Again, feat, same exact thing as last time. Pick whatever you didn't have before. You can go with Dual Wielder or with Ability Improvement. Pick whatever you want. Level 5 Ranger is nice because you gain the spell Misty Step automatically, and you gain 2 level 2 spell slots. You also gain extra attack, And from here, after level 5, you would do your rogue and your fighter. Spell-wise, I think Silence and Spike Growth are the best level 2 spells you can gain right here, but really pick what you think is going to be best for you and your party. One of the key differences with this build, the Gloomstalker one, versus the other builds is you will be using Risky Ring. That way you can get advantage on your attack rolls at any time, meaning you can get your sneak attack damage at any time. But you don't really need Boots of Persistence since you have Longstrider as a actual ritual spell. So instead, you may want to use something else. The Nightwalkers that you get from True Soul Nair are also really, really good. I would highly recommend them for this build as well. Or if you prefer to go to AC route, again, Evasive Shoes are also really nice here. Okay, and I'm going to showcase the damage here against these guys just to showcase some things that I like. Go ahead and get my pre-buff going. Enter turn-based mode. I didn't actually put Longstrider on, and I should have, because now that I'm in turn-based mode, this will take a turn to use. It's not a big deal though, I'm not worried about it, but you can use it as a ritual spell outside of combat. I'm just simply going to open up on this target right in front of me.
You murdered someone in view of a guard.
And I'd like to show just from the damage I did. This is all damage without my actual aura being up, so imagine that being almost doubled. I one-shot that guy regardless. So I have advantage on literally every single attack I do. So I'm going to come up here and we're going to attack with Dreadful Ambusher here and hit this target in front of us. That's a lot of damage, guys. I'd like to just showcase that damage right here. So that was 46 piercing plus another 24 piercing plus 48 piercing and another 24 piercing. That's a lot of damage. All of that from one single button press. That's how strong this build can be when you crit. This character doesn't have any illithid powers. Yeah, if you had the on-demand crit, it's even better. So I'm going to come over here now. I do want to attack him with both weapons, but if I didn't, I can toggle dual wielding on and off, just like that. So now when I attack, it will only be with my main hand and not the offhand. That way, if I wanted to use my offhand for something else, I could. So let's go ahead and attack with the main hand just to see how much damage it does. It missed. Even despite having a 91% chance to hit, it missed. That's unfortunate. What about the offhand? So offhand didn't really do all that much, but that's okay, because I get another attack from the main hand. And that one was a crit, and because you're attacking with advantage, you will be critting a lot. So one thing you could also do, assuming you get it, once you get to Act 3, you do have an option to get the helmet here from the boss. This will give you an additional chance to crit. If you want to use that, that's up to you. I kind of like using the Birthright Helm just for the extra charisma, but you really don't have to. Okay, so in this scenario, say, I was overwhelmed, I didn't know what to do. Even though I could just finish these people right here on my turn, I'm actually going to use Umbral Shroud to go invisible. So now I am completely invisible, and they don't know where I'm at. So I'm going to come over here and end my turn. They're going to try finding me, but they don't know where I'm at. See, and now combat ended. So if I needed to get away, I could, which is a really nice benefit of the Gloomstalker. So now, if I wanted the extra movement speed, because you don't get the additional 10 movement that the Barbarian gets at all times, you could just use Longstrider as a ritual spell. I use it, and now I have it at all times. But it did take me out of stealth, so keep that in mind. And that's basically how you play the Gloomstalker. It's really, really fun. You get all the extra damage on your openings. Is really, really great. Very similar to the Barbarian build, but you're not nearly as resistant as you are with that other build, so do keep that in mind. There is going to be one more build that I want to showcase before we get to the Bard and Paladin, and that's going to be the Druid version of this. So essentially, you can put 2 points into Druid, and this will allow you to go the Spore Druid, so you can do extra necrotic damage on your attacks. And I did want to showcase it. I wasn't going to add it at first until testing it, and wow, it does some great damage. So you want to start out as a fighter. You're going to get your 2-weapon fighting. The ability modifiers are all going to be exactly the same as they were before. Get your dexterity, constitution, and charisma up, because it is going to work exactly the same as the other builds do. The only difference with this is the fact that you will have 1 additional feat, because you get a feat at level 4 with fighter, a feat at level 6 with fighter, and a feat at level 4 with the rogue. So fighter, you're going to go all the way down to at least level 5 to get the extra attack. Whether you want Battle Master or Champion is going to be up to you. Champion's extra crit. Battle Master is going to be extra things you can do in combat, like Disarming Strike to disarm your enemy and things like that. Pick whatever you want. Champion's really easy. It's basically set and forget, it's just extra crit. First feat, again, choose whatever you want here. I think Dual Wielder is really nice to get early on. You get your extra attack. For your second feat, ability improvement, you want to go ahead and get your charisma and that constitution up. Start going into your rogue in order to get the extra sneak attack stuff. Make sure you change your abilities, because you do want your performance up pretty high. Alright, rogue again, you're going to go at least 3 points into rogue. After this, you want to get 2 points into Druid. If you prefer to go Druid earlier, you're more than welcome to. The Druid at level 2 is when you get your subclass. Cantrips, pick whatever you want. You're not going to use this at all. Your spells aren't going to be used because you have like no wisdom. So go with guidance in my opinion. Really anything else you want. Guidance is the only real useful one. Thorn Whip is probably not going to do all that well since your wisdom's pretty low. But pick whatever you want here. Spells, pick whatever you want. Longstrider, ritual spell, good berry. You know, same thing as the other classes we already talked about. Alright, so you want to click Circle of Spores. Instead of using Wild Shape to turn into an animal, which you still can do, you're going to use it to use Symbiotic Entity. You get temporary hit points. While you have those temporary hit points, your attacks will do additional D6 necrotic damage. As a reaction, you can also do additional damage as well. It's really nice, and you get an additional cantrip, but you're not worried about that. Okay, level 12, you can put extra points into fighter if you want to get the level 7 things. That's going to be up to you. Or, in my opinion, go rogue in order to get the extra feat. You do ability improvement here in case you wanted to get extra dex, if you want to get extra charisma. If you wanted to get something like Savage Attacker is really great because this will, re-roll your dice for all your melee attacks. Really good to make sure you get the highest damage. Here, pick whatever you want. It's going to be up to you. I'm a big fan of Savage Attacker or the ability improvement at this point.
Murdered someone in view of a guard.
So this is the Druid version that I'm testing out. I'm not sure if I was going to add this to the video or not, so I guess we will see if it makes it in or not. Seems to be doing some pretty good damage though. Alright, so I'm going to come up here and we are going to attack this target right in front of us. Oh, my passive, my aura. There we go. Alright, you can see he now has piercing resistance is down, so I'm going to do some big damage to him. least that's the goal anyway. I already used my sneak attack on that last character, so I can't use it on him, but that's okay. So I can still crit him for insane damage. I basically just one-shot that Watcher. Okay, so for the Bard version of this, it's going to be no surprise you will be going College of Swords. All the stuff at the beginning, pick honestly whatever you want. Everything's going to have its own use. We mentioned how great Longstrider is because it's a ritual spell that holds true even now. Featherfall is another ritual spell you can use outside of combat, so that's also really nice. But pick whatever you want. It's going to be up to you. Ability score, again, is going to be the same exact as it was. Drop your points and everything else and start putting it up. And this, of course, is going to be for endgame, so until you get to endgame, do whatever you want. And we're going to go from Bard level 1 all the way to level 6. Spell-wise, again, just pick whatever you want. As you level up, you'll kind of like learn what spells and stuff you like. So make sure you pick College of Swords, because this is where the fun begins. This is when you get all the really cool melee stuff, or range, but you're going to be dual wielding, so you want it as melee. Spell-wise here, I mean, you unlock your level 2 spells. I like using the College of Daggers or Cloud of Daggers. Pick whatever you want, but your fighting style is going to be 2-weapon fighting style. So Bard level 4 is when you get your first feat. Again, go with your dual wielder here. Cantrip, pick whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Spell, again, pick whatever you think is going to be useful, it's up to you. Hold person's pretty nice because it guarantees crits on the enemy. Bard level 5 is nice because you get Font of Inspiration, so you can get your stuff back on a short rest instead of being a long rest. You gain even more spells. Again, pick whatever you want here. It's going to be up to you. And the reason I said go to Bard level 6 for College of Swords is because you get extra attack. All the other martial classes get it at level 5. As a Bard, you get it at level 6. You also gain Counter Charm, which is nice. And you gain even more spells. So again, as before, pick whatever you need and what you think is going to be useful. Okay, so at level 7, you have some options. You can put 2 points into Paladin or 2 levels into Paladin to get your Divine Smites. Or you can put points into Rogue to unlock the second bonus action. Whichever way you do it is going to be up to you. I think getting Paladin right away is going to be nice because then you can also get Inquisitor's Might for radiant damage on your attacks, on top of getting even more stuff at level 2. So that's what I'm going with. Alright, level 2, you get your Divine Smites, which is cool. You get to pick another fighting style. You go with defense for even more AC. And now you start putting points into Rogue. You want to keep going all the way down. You're going to pick Thief, of course. And then you want to go again to get your final feat. So if you want the feat earlier, you go Rogue. If you want Divine Smite sooner, you go Paladin. Again, you could do ability improvement here to pick whatever you want. You could go with the good old Performer to get it up that way. Pick whatever you want. It's going to be up to you and what you pick here. I guess I really didn't need Performer since I'm already a Bard and have it, but it is what it is. So now you have a ton of spell slots, which is great because you're going to have some really, really great spells to use on people. So let's go ahead and check this out in combat. Now, one thing I do want to say is the Harmonize buff that you get from your offhand with this build does affect Divine Smite, by the way. So all your Divine Smites, because I have 20 Charisma with the hat equipped, will do an additional 5 damage. Make sure all your reactions are set up properly because you do have a lot of spell slots here to do additional damage. So I'm going to go ahead and just set up so I can show you the power of this build. So we'll go ahead and get a performance going. Successful, fantastic, potion, bonus. I'm enter turn-based mode, and I'm just going to pretty much one-shot this guy right here. I'm going to use my flourish just because I want the additional AC right away. Because I'm afraid this big guy is going to come and like completely nuke me down. Let's go ahead and do Divine Smite level 3 on him. And you can see I did some big damage to him. Dang, man. Even with the increased AC, I'm taking damage. That's unfortunate. As you can see, I have 21 AC base, but when you go to do the flourish, it gives you another +4, so I would have been at 25 AC. So he's almost dead, but I'm not going to worry about him yet. Instead, I am going to do some big damage to this guy right here. So we're going to go with a flourish to essentially, can I hit both of these guys at once? Maybe. Not quite. I was hoping I'd be able to showcase it, because when you use the flourish to hit more than one person at once, you can Divine Smite both people at once. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to, so instead I'm going to use the flourish to knock him back to showcase how fun that is. So you have the one that looks like a little teleport. This is the one I'm going to use on him. It says I'm at a disadvantage, and it's because it's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Here we go. This one here. We're going to hit this guy extremely hard. And I'm going to use Divine level 4. Nope, we'll go 3. Just for fun. If you take a look at the damage from that alone, you can see I get the +5 from my Charisma modifier because of the Harmonized on the enemy. So now I believe they might be in range for me to actually hit. Let's find out. If I use my flourish, will it hit both? It does. Fantastic. Check it out. So I crit, Divine Smite crit, and unfortunately he just straight died. But you can just see, like, I just knocked out both of them guys back to back. No issues. It does so much damage. While he's exploding, I'm just going to run over here. And, yeah, I'm going to attack you. Kill him. Because I knocked him back, if I wanted to teleport to him again, I can. Doesn't take an action. If for whatever reason I needed to do that, I could. I have one more bonus action, so instead I'm going to dash and just get away. And I'm going to end my turn. And that's basically how you play the build as the Bard Paladin setup. You have all the cool flourishes you can do with your melee or ranged attacks, and it's really fun. You do a lot of damage, guys, a ton of damage. So one thing I did want to showcase, if like this guard back there, it's really hard for me to get to that guard, right? So what can I do to possibly get to him even though I can't reach him? Well, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to use the teleport again, except the ranged one this time. You can see it's a 75% chance to hit, so hopefully I do. I hit him, so now I can teleport. And I just teleported through the door, which is nice. So now I can use my melee attacks and finish this guy off. Except I missed. Making me look bad, man. And I hit him, so I'm going to use my Divine Smite level 3 to do some extra damage. And then I'm going to attack him again to finish him. Okay, so at level 5 with the Oathbreaker, that is when things kind of get really interesting. This is when you actually get some really good stuff. You get Darkness, really fantastic. You also get Crown of Madness, also really cool. Darkness is great because if you use the blind immunity ring, this will actually be really, really useful for yourself. You'll be able to attack in the darkness while enemies can't, so it's really, really useful, and I really like it a lot. Level 6, you get Aura Protection. This is based off of your Charisma modifier. Level 7 Oathbreaker is when things get really interesting because you get Aura of Hate. So you and nearby fiends and undead all gain additional damage equal to your Charisma modifier for melee damage. Right now my Charisma is at 18 of this build, so it'd be +4. With the hat that we had earlier in the build, it'd be +5, which is nice. So now you have some options to think about. Do you want to continue going down Oathbreaker, which you certainly can, or do you want to multi-class with something else like a Rogue, for example, and do 5 points in the Rogue in order to get the sneak attack damage? I personally like going with the sneak attack damage route just because it will add a good amount of damage, especially if you go 5 points. So that's what we are going to do instead. And at Rogue level 5, you get to increase sneak attack damage as well as uncanny dodge. So taking a look at my stats here, I also got to equip all my gear. I am going to get my Birthright equipped here. That is going to be very useful. Gloves, bone spike like usual. Boots, this is when you have a choice. Normally you don't get Missy Step as an Oathbreaker Paladin, so Nightwalkers would be pretty useful to use here if you don't like using Boots of Persistence. If you want more AC, you could go Evasive Shoes as well. Really up to you. You could also get Amulet of Misty Step to get Misty Step that way. Ring-wise though, because we do want advantage with our attacks in order to get the sneak attack damage off, we are actually going to be going with the Risky Ring again, just because it's easy to get all the free sneak attack damage. Alright, offhand again is going to be the Harmonic Dueler. This thing is really great because this affects sneak attack damage. Divine Smite is really, really good. The only thing with this build that is lacking though are your spell slots, so do keep that in mind. Your spell slots here are very limited, so I would recommend that you definitely ask on every single Divine Smite, because if not, you will waste your spell slots galore. Alright, so I'm going to open up on this guy here. I did not even need to use any of my Divine Smites, and I still did tons of damage. So what's great is I get opportunity attacks on him that are also going to do some big damage. I don't want to use my sneak attack on him because I do want to save that for my turn. But I get the opportunity attacks to literally get free Divine Smites if I wanted to. I'm not going to waste the spell slots though here because I don't think it's needed. So now it's my turn. Imagine the extra damage I would have done with the Divine Smites against him. Would have been a lot more. See the damage here. Does a lot. I have my Aura of Murder, so when we come up, we are now going to do some big, big damage to him. I want to do my sneak attack here. Divine Smite, rank 2. You can see I did a ton of damage here. You got your Strength modifier, the piercing damage, Charisma modifier, Aura, Hate modifier. Like, there's a lot of modifiers here. It's doing a ton of damage. Future Ronin here. I just noticed that it didn't actually do double damage because it doesn't say he's vulnerable. That's because the Aura of Murder glitched. It can glitch. So sorry, I didn't realize that when I was filming for the Paladin and part of my footage got corrupted, so I couldn't really edit it all that well. Normally, this damage that you see here would be pretty much doubled because for whatever reason, the Aura of Murder was not actually working despite me having the Bone Spike gloves and the chest face equipped. So keep that in mind, the damage here would be higher normally. And that's pretty much all the videos, guys, and all the builds I have for dual wielding. I'm sure there's plenty more people will come up with, but this is what I came up with, and I found them to be really, really fun. Please comment down below what your favorite build was and what you want to see next. I really appreciate all the support with my channel. It's grown so much, and I just want to say thank you to everyone that watched these videos, and thank you so much for making it to the end. Bye-bye.